New polling this week by former Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton shows exactly what he set out to prove. That enthusiasm for the former guy is waning. People are not that into him anymore. Fear of him among the GOP is totally unfounded. There's no reason for it in the data. From that poll, independents repelled largely by one thing, Donald Trump's personality, hold a 37% positive view of Trump and a 55% negative view of him. While President Biden holds a net positive approval of 48% among those same independent voters, and 46% have an unfavorable account. That means Trump is upside down 20 points, a 20-point difference in net favorability between the two men among independents, which means one thing. Loyalty and subservience to Trump is not the permission structure. It's not the excuse structure, frankly, that it used to be. And it makes Biden's soaring approval ratings for his agenda items all the more ominous for Republicans. Joining our conversation is Tim Miller, writer-at-large at the Bulwark, and a former communications director for Jeb Bush's 2016 presidential campaign. Jonathan Lemire is still here. So, Tim, I got on this call, and I had a million questions. But what I wanted to know was, what is lumped into personality, right? Is it the big lie? Is it inciting an insurrection? Is it bad loser stuff? And the answer is it's all of it. I mean, independents do not like Trump anymore, and it may have taken a few years, but his personality has caught up with him. I think the harder question for Republicans to answer is, then this is who you are, right? And I think that's probably the conclusion you've reached.
That is the conclusion I've reached. And as is my want on Deadline, Nicole, I need to be a little bit of a rain cloud. I appreciate what former National Security Advisor Bolton is doing here, trying to nudge the party away from Trump. I'm with him in that mission. But these numbers aren't as good as he made it believe. You know, I got this press release too, and it says, well, 56% of voters in 2024 don't want to vote for Trump. And I was like, well, you know, another way of putting that is 44% too. That's pretty alarming.
Fair enough.
I pulled up the crosstabs, and if you just look at the Republicans, the 2024 head-to-head is 50 Trump, 50 everybody else and undecided. That's a pretty good position for somebody running in 2024. So look, that's all a long way off. That's all punditry. I think the important takeaway here is that, yes, independents are repelled by him. Yes, independents are attracted to Joe Biden's agenda. Joe Biden should keep on getting on. And the Republican Party needs to decide, are we going to try to attract these independents, or are we going to continue in this protracted battle where we appeal to the 50%, the half of our base that is really in a Trump cult? And right now, they're all deciding, with the exception of Liz Cheney, basically, yes, we're going to try to appeal to that Trump cult.
Okay, this is going to be one of these annoying conversations of two former campaign nerds, but I'm going to do this anyway. So I looked at the crosstabs, too, and I think that the number among independents with a shrinking party registration among Republicans is perilous in national elections. I don't think you can run someone who's, you know, minus 20 among independents if you've got 29 to 25 was the drop in Republican registration just last year. That's pre-insurrection. That's pre what happened last night. The right lost their godforsaken mind over the Chauvin verdict. I mean, do you think that the calculation will be, you know, let's just try to harden? And I mean, the calculation now seems to be, let's harden this 25%. You can't win anything nationally with 25%.
Yeah. Well, look, I think that this is why, you know, I support what Bolton's trying to do here, because I think that you're right. I think if you look at the underlying data, in order to win national elections, they're going to need to appeal to the independents. They're going to need to appeal to the people that have left the party. They're going to need to appeal to the, you know, minority of the Republican base voters that wants to move on, right? Like that's how you win national elections. The problem here is that these guys have to deal with primary electorates. You know, a lot of them are in red states where these numbers are different. A lot of them are totally not interested in appealing to the suburbs and to cross voters because of the political incentives that they face. Sorry, that's my door. And you know, look, I think that we, I think so. I think that they are making a rational choice for their narrow short-term political interests. Long-term, it's a death knell, and they're stuck between this rock and a hard place. And I think that's why Bolton is trying to encourage, you know, them to move off it by showing these independent numbers. And so, I think that's the main takeaway here.
You know, Jonathan, and I guess the larger point is we have to get beyond why do they do it, right? Why is Hawley's fist up? Why is Cruz a slave to the Trump base? We've always thought that they were slavish to Trump because of his power. And so I think the power may not be this sort of optimistic view of where the party's heading. To the contrary, it may be what Tim just described, a sort of an omen for the sure end and demise of whatever remains, because they see the world the way Donald Trump did. They didn't run from your cameras and reporters like yourself when Trump was president because they didn't want to comment. They ran from you because they didn't want to agree on TV.
Yeah, that's certainly right. And a couple of points here, Nicole. First of all, I think that two things can be true at once. That Trump's influence over the party and just writ large has definitely faded. It has been striking how sort of removed from the news cycle he now is, now that he's not off Twitter. Yes, the emailed statements come out, but those don't really go anywhere. In fact, they're often ignored. Same with a lot of his call-in interviews, that he sort of has largely ceded the stage. Now, he is still, yes, absolutely, in the strongest position of any other Republican. But it remains to be seen whether or not he actually would plunge into another race. And a lot of people close to him that I've talked to, even in recent days, highly doubt that. The question then is, okay, where does the Republican Party go from here? Do they indeed stay with him? And to the vast majority of them, the answer seems to be yes, even not Trump the candidate, but Trumpism. That they feel like that is where the voters are. And it is sort of a dark and cynical view. And a shrinking population. Republican registrations are way down, as you said. Independents have broken away from the party, at least for now, and seem to be into Joe Biden's agenda. Certainly the White House doesn't miss a beat or a chance to tell you that even if they're not getting support of Republican lawmakers in Washington for their agenda, Republican voters were behind the COVID relief bill and seem to be behind a lot of this infrastructure and jobs package. So the question is now, does another Republican try to go a different way? There's certainly talk of Chris Christie floating maybe another run where he feels like he can appeal to some of the sort of the personality, perhaps, of the Trump voters, but with more moderate, more sensible positions, at least on some issues. Would that be a more viable path?
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.